we know even from short-term studies that SSRIs and SNRIs, and some other antidepressants, cause sexual dysfunction. And it's becoming increasingly clear through, more and more people reporting this, that in some cases this sexual dysfunction can persist after the drugs have been stopped. And it looks like this is not a very uncommon situation. There was a recent survey that was done in Canada that was a general survey of people's sexual health. It wasn't specifically about antidepressants at all, but they did ask people if they were taking antidepressants, and they asked people who'd taken and then stopped antidepressants whether they had any persistent sexual problems, and 13% said that they did, compared to 1% who had taken other drugs and stopped other drugs. So that to me is a really, really worrying finding. And, we know that sexual side effects are underreported. So it may be that it's even, that the figures are even higher than that. And this is not something that's been well publicized or that many people know about. And clearly it's very important that this message gets out there, particularly to young people who are considering starting or continuing to take an antidepressant.
Yeah, nobody seems to talk about the sexual effects, the sexual dysfunction effects that many people, when I was going through and reading different things, people would comment there from anonymous profiles, or they would comment there on Reddit or things, but not many people want to actually publicize. So I admire the people that come forward and actually do, because as you said, it seems to be something that is swept away in the shadows.
Absolutely. I admire them. And I think it's important just to tell your listeners exactly what they're saying as well. So these are people who've been on antidepressants for varying periods of time, and who are then saying that after they come off them, they've got no libido, they've still got reduced genital sensitivity. It's often associated with continuing emotional blunting, and these effects are really profoundly affecting people's lives. So much so that people in this situation often end up, feeling suicidal, because it's so, it's so bad, and they feel like they've lost their lives, lost this hugely important part of their lives and their personalities.
And does that come back?
I can't give you a definitive answer to that, but I would think in many cases it does, but it may take years. And I'm basing that on, so people who, so some people experience really severe withdrawal symptoms after coming off antidepressants. And even when they've stopped, they have ongoing symptoms, often general feelings of lethargy and discomfort, brain fog. Some people find that they can't think straight, they can't get out of bed, and these symptoms can go on for years after people have stopped taking an antidepressant. It's now referred to as prolonged or protracted antidepressant withdrawal syndrome, or PAWS, and it's been written about in a few papers. Now, that syndrome does, it seem, usually get better. And most people get better within a couple of years, but for some people it takes longer, and it can take up to 10 years or even more. But it does seem like most people get better. And I would think, and it seems as if basically there's some sort of brain injury has gone on, that the drugs have messed about with brain physiology and structure, and it takes a long time for the brain to completely normalize after they've been stopped. But it does seem to, and on that basis, I would expect that persistent sexual dysfunction will probably eventually improve in most people too. But I think we just don't have enough data on it yet, really, to be certain.